Ian Murray.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bailey. It's a great pleasure, as always, to speak in the Chamber under your chairmanship. I'm slightly disappointed, as with many honourable members in this Chamber, about the introduction that we've had from the Petitions Committee, because I didn't hear one argument for us not having a second independent referendum. And I thought, in the balanced way that the honourable gentleman may have put forward his case, he may have even spent at least 55% of his opening speech on giving that argument, so that we could have had a balanced debate. And here's the bombshell, Mr. Bailey, in this particular Westminster Hall debate. 2 million is larger than 1.6 million, and therefore 55% of the Scottish people voted to remain part of the United Kingdom. Now, I have no truck with the Scottish National Party in terms of them continue to agitate for a second referendum. That's why they exist. But what I would hope that they would do is realise the impact that this is having on not just the Scottish economy, but Scotland as a country. When people go to the polls and make their democratic choice to stay part of the United Kingdom, that should be respected, and respected for a number of reasons. One, it's democratic, but secondly, we were promised by the proponents of an independent Scotland that it would be once in a generation, or indeed once in a lifetime. And when proponents say that, when you go to the polls and you put your cross in the box, whether it's yes or no, you should be able to trust what people say when you're doing that. Now, I won't come on to the Conservatives in terms of what they did, or many of them did, during the Brexit referendum, but people should be able to trust what people are saying during referendums and take that forward on their own basis. Now, I come at this from a slightly different perspective than people have spoken to already. I come to this from the perspective of jobs, livelihoods and prosperity in my own constituency. 66% of my constituency voted to remain part of the United Kingdom, and that's something that I promised, as many honourable members in this chamber have already mentioned, to respect, not just in the 2015 general election, but also in the 2017 election. It was very much the question on the doorsteps in 15 and in 17. And what I would say to the honourable gentleman from Lithgow, who says that the SNP won the election in 2017, that they should be marginally more humble about that result and not take the Scottish people for granted. Because what I would say to him is, if they did win the election, as he claims so emphatically that they did, why are they not bringing forward now a second independent referendum if they feel that's the mandate that they've got? But there's a lesson in here for the Scottish people, regardless of even the First Minister or the entirety of the Yes campaign or the Scottish National Party, and I appreciate that there are nuances in terms of difference between those three particular groups. If it is put onto the back burner, or even if the First Minister stands up and says we will have no talk of a second independence referendum, what brings it back onto the front burner again? What brings it back onto the front burner is people voting SNP at other elections, because we've heard this afternoon that that's where the mandate comes from, and that's where the SNP see the mandate coming from, and therefore it will never be properly on the back burner while the SNP decide to continue to agitate for it. And let's look at the economic case in terms of jobs and livelihood. Scotland's lagging behind the rest of the United Kingdom in terms of growth and in terms of jobs and in terms of sustainability of the economy. Investment is not as high as it is across the rest of the United Kingdom. And that economic case for a second independence referendum is just completely shot. Constituents come to me all the time and say, we're 3 years on from the independence referendum, we're 5.5, 6 years on from the start of this process, and we still don't know the big fundamental issues. What happens to our pensions? What currency will we use? Where will be our banking of last resort? And this is a crucial one as well, Mr. Bailey, because this is one of the key arguments from the honourable gentleman from Linlithgow. Will we or will we not be part of the European Union? I still don't know what the Scottish government's position is in terms of the European Union, because they know they have to play to a number of people who voted yes, who voted leave, and they know they have to play to that base in terms of whether or not they will go back into the European Union. So if somebody from the SNP wants to intervene on me now and tell me if it's the position of the Scottish National Party to go back and as full members of the European Union, I'm happy to take the intervention. I will take the intervention.
It was him or one of his colleagues I was on the radio with who said, if Scotland voted no in 2014, it was a vote to stay in the European Union. Where does that promise stand now?
Answer his question.
There's been a democratic vote, hasn't there? And there's been a democratic petition put forward to this committee that I wish we were analysing in terms of the way it went. So I'll just finish on this, because I do want other honourable members to speak. It's quite clear in my own constituency that 3,622 people took the time and the effort to sign a petition to say we don't want a second independence referendum for all the issues around the economy, around culture and about taking Scotland forward. They've made that decision already. Only 500 people voted to have a second independence referendum. We must listen to the public, we must hear what they're saying, and for the sake of the Scottish economy and for the future livelihoods and prosperity of my constituents, let's say no to a second referendum and take it off the table permanently.